As far as the agreement in loans, first and foremost, a Jew is not allowed to lend another Jew money and charge him interest. So there's no leniency there, with the exception of if this Jew that you're lending money and charging interest to is a Mechalel Shabbat. If he's a Mechalel Shabbat, you're allowed to charge him interest, and the reason why is because according to Halacha, according to the Torah in 12 places, Shulchan Aruch in 7 places, and pretty much everywhere across the Torah, a Jew that violates Shabbat is considered 100% an idol worshiper. So you treat him the same way as you treat as an idol worshiper. You're allowed to charge him interest. But the Chachamim say you still shouldn't charge him interest, because in case he does tshuva, if he does tshuva, you have a problem. Forget inflation. There's no such thing as inflation. You give you $100, you give him back $100. So what happens if a person, let's say, for example, borrowed $100, a friend asked you for $2 and said, I'm going to give you back tomorrow. $200, $2, it's the same thing. Give me $2, give me $200, give me $2,000, I'll give it back to you tomorrow. And he doesn't do it. He doesn't give it back to you. That person is sinning. Why? Because that person made a swear that he's going to give back your money. It's a problem. Defaulting on a loan. It's people that don't keep their word. It says in the Mishnah that just like a Kadosh Baruch Hu destroyed the generation of the Palaga, the Tower of Babel, he'll destroy the people that don't keep their word. Why? Because the Kadosh Baruch Hu keeps his word. You have to be like him. So you cannot tell people that you are going to pay them back and don't pay them back. In fact, when it comes to business, you have to be so careful that you're not even allowed to borrow money unless you know that you can pay it back. Meaning, if you say, listen, I need to buy a house. I need to borrow $100,000 from my friend. How are you going to pay it back? Well, Bezat Hashem. Not allowed to borrow that money, Bezat Hashem. Not allowed to take a risk with his money. You're called a Rasha. If you borrow money without knowing how you're going to pay it back, you're called a Rasha in the Torah. For every single second you don't pay him back, you're called a Rasha. Why? Because you took risk with his life. His life being his money. Money is considered damim. It's considered life. So you took risk with his money. If you know, okay, I have collateral. If I don't pay him back, I could give him my car. I could give him my house. I have this job that makes me the money. I have a way to pay him back. Not, it's like, Be'ezat Hashem, I'm going to pay him back. No. But if you have a way to pay him back, you're allowed to borrow the money. So you're not even allowed to borrow money from people if you don't know if you can pay them back. This means that most people that borrow money are not allowed to borrow money. Because most people that borrow money borrow on, like when there's dire straits. They have no other choice. So what do you do if you have no other choice? You don't have a way to pay him back. You need $10,000 because you need to do such and such. You're in a jam. You just lost all your money in the stock market. You put everything into bitcoins or something, and you lost everything. And now you need to pay rent. You need to pay mortgage. You have kids. You have stuff. You need $10,000 to close the month. You haven't paid rent or mortgage in 3 months. You need $10,000. I'm going to kick you on the streets. What do? You say, okay, can you pay me back? I don't have a job. But Be'ezat Hashem, I'll get a job. That's not an excuse. You're not allowed to borrow money. So what do? Ask for tzedakah. Tell him want tzedakah. I need tzedakah. Yeah, but it's busha, it's embarrassing. Okay, good. Good. It's better to be embarrassed here than to be a rasha. 1 second, over there. And also being embarrassed is a form of tshuva. So, borrowing money has to have an agreement. You lend somebody $1,000, let's say. You have to have a shtar iska. You have to have an agreement. I'm borrowing this money for an X amount of time, let's say for a year. In a year from now, you're going to give me back $1,000 back. You borrowed 1,000, you're going to give me back 1,000 a year from now. During that year, there's no inflation worries whatsoever. But even so, you pay him back what you borrowed. You don't pay him back. You don't pay him back what happened to it in 80 years.
Can you make an agreement that inflation counts, or is that
it's a form of interest. It's a form of interest, yes. So you have to have a special shtar iska. You have to have a serious Talmid Chacham to see if you could structure the loan as a partial investment and partial loan. Where, in essence, if the person takes the money, let's say, for example, it's more than $1,000. Let's say it's $100,000. And You know that if you give him the $100,000, you don't have access to the $100,000 anymore. So that means you're losing opportunity. You can use the $100,000 to invest the money and do a bunch of other things with it. But now you don't have it anymore, so he has it. So you're losing opportunity. You want to get paid for that opportunity. But at the same token, you're not allowed to charge interest. So what do? You do a shtar iska, where you structure that part of the money is a loan, where let's say 50,000 out of the 100,000 is 100% loan. Meaning he has to return you no matter what, he has to return the $50,000 back. No matter what. Doesn't matter if he goes broke, if his idea works, doesn't work, he has to return the 50,000 out of the 100,000 no matter what, and an X amount of time. If he doesn't have that X amount of time, he gets more time, but the point is, he has to return the money. He owes you the money permanently. Even if he dies, his family has to pay the loan. Now, on the other hand, the other $50,000 that's an investment, that's risk. Meaning, if that 50, he takes the 100,000, he invests the 100,000, whatever he wants. Let's say, I don't know, he buys a business. And that business makes an extra amount of money. So that 50,000 that's a loan, that's a loan. But that 50,000 that's an investment, that investment is permitted to get a piece of the profits of that business. You get a piece of the potential reward that's going to happen. But at the same token, if his investment goes bust, he doesn't have to pay you back. Meaning that entire 50,000 is up to risk. It goes to zero, it goes to zero. He doesn't have to pay you that money back. So that way you can structure it where you don't take 100% risk, but at the same token, you're not losing any potential reward. You could potentially make money. And that's how people structure loans when it comes to large sums of money, if they have opportunity and things of that nature. But generally speaking, it's when it comes to interest, when it comes to inflation, when it comes to even giving a person a gift, you're not allowed. Like for example, if let's say for example somebody, you borrowed something from them, you borrowed, I don't know, iPad. You borrowed an iPad, but it was a used iPad, 2 or 3 year old iPad. That was, let's say, worth $200. Okay? While you had it, it broke. You feel bad. Tell your friend, listen, the iPad broke, but I got you this new one. Best one on the street, it's $1,500, it's on me. Not allowed. Why? That's interest. You can give it to him as a gift, but it's not the returning of the money. Only $200 out of the $1,500. But if you give him that whole thing, just like that, oh, this is payback, it's everything, not allowed. Why? That's giving him interest. You're not allowed to give him more than he gave you. Because the sin of interest is both on the borrower and also on the lender. It's on everybody. It's not just one party. Everybody's in trouble.